Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you're enjoying yourself on this beautiful day. We're here. Seems like in the second week of October this year, 2023. Time going fast. Anyway, this is a topic that's very, very, very interesting, and it's about gentrification. And it's gonna give you a brief. I'm gonna show you three videos, and it's going to tell you about gentrification. What happened with this first black family. Okay, let's get to the video.
Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. I want to tell you a story of a black family who overcame incredible odds. Odds that no group outside of black Americans have ever had to contend with. A story about a family who clawed a living and a future out of the cold, dead earth. A story about the malignant anti-black forces of America who attempted to steal from them what was theirs. I want to tell you a story about perseverance, and ultimately, a story about victory. Our story begins in 1941 in Barlow Bend, Alabama, where a black man, Joe Eli, bought 127 acres of land at a cost of $2,500. This black man did this in the heart of the dirty South. He staked his claim and took control of the land, part of which had been a slave plantation a few generations earlier. He used the land as a homestead and a farm. In more recent years, his descendants have used it as a place for family gatherings. This is what a lot of black families did in the years following the end of chattel slavery. They began to acquire land, and lots of it. At the beginning of the 20th century, black Americans owned 20 million acres of land in the U.S. Today, it's been whittled down to only 2 million. One legal scholar out of Boston says that a conservative estimate of the value of the land stolen from black Americans is $326 billion, and that's a conservative estimate. This stolen land was the result of deliberate government policy, legalized land theft through a number of different laws and government agencies, all working together to steal what belongs to us. The excuses that they used range from petty to outright false technicalities, all the way to the old "I'm white and I say so." And that brings us back to Joe Eli. In 1959, he died unexpectedly, and his wife not long thereafter. Unfortunately, Mr. Eli didn't have a will, as many black people and white people, for that matter, don't have wills, so control of his land was automatically divided between his 15 children. That was back in the 1950s. Decades passed. America's population grew. Businesses looked for choice real estate to build on, and a lot of them began the predatory practice of specifically looking for black landowners who they could go after, because the laws had been written in a way so as to allow white interested parties to take a black family's land. And when you look at how consistently the laws have been used to target black landowners, you realize that's exactly what those laws were meant to do.
The person who purchased an outside interest, I guess, sent a letter unsolicited to a couple members of the family. They had no idea the ramifications that it would create, and when we found out about it, it was by way of a lawsuit from the gentleman who purchased the interest, and he said that he had an intent to buy all of the land.
Many southern states had a law that allowed anyone who buys even one share of a family's land to be able to sue the remaining heirs and force them to sell their entire property. Most landowners don't even know about this, which makes a property with heirs easy targets for predatory real estate types. Many white real estate developers have used this exact legal maneuver to take land from black families. As I said, they specifically target black landowners. In the case of the Eli estate, there were 15 heirs, which meant the property had 15 shares. In 2012, a man named James Deschler convinced some distant cousins to sell their share of the Eli estate at a fraction of its value. Of course, what these cousins didn't know was that the entire reason this Deschler character wanted to buy their land was because that would give him legal standing to sue the rest of their family in an attempt to force them to sell their shares to him. The land Joe Eli bought is valued today at an estimated $212,000. Of course, we all know when it comes to black people, they always claim that our property is worth far less than it actually is. which would certainly explain why this Deschler person wasn't willing to let this lawsuit go. You see, lawsuits are costly, and they take a long time. Deschler was probably thinking that the black heirs of Joe Eli would cave into the financial pressure he was putting on them, and he would get that 127 acres for a song. He would hit them with a nuisance suit, and they, of course, wouldn't have the financial means to fight him in court, and then he would be able to offer them a quick, tiny settlement just to go away, and they would, of course, say yes to it. This is exactly how it has gone for so many black families who owned land, especially in the Deep South. And Deschler almost got away with it. Though one of Joe Eli's grandsons, Michael Robinson, wasn't about to let some interlopers steal his family's land. He led the effort to hold on to the family estate. First thing he had to do was to reach out to the family members and make sure they knew about the land and put their heads together to hold on to it. And also to make sure everybody had a heads up about the trick that the Robinsons' cousins fell for. Robinson also reached out to the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, a non-profit group of black farmers and landowners in southeastern states that's been providing legal and technical assistance to those who need it. As Robinson himself put it, I didn't want someone to say, that generation didn't fight to keep the land in the family. So we adopted this motto of, not on our watch. And he was right. Too many times black people have allowed apathy to beat us. We think it's just too much trouble to fight for what's ours. Well, that was in 2012. The lawsuit that Deschler filed lasted several years and God knows how much money. Keep in mind, this was the Deschler guy who was keeping this going. Also, the Robinsons had to see it through to make sure that nobody else tried this in the future. A shame for Deschler, though, that he didn't try this stunt a few years earlier, because while this lawsuit was winding its way through the courts, the laws had changed to address specifically this kind of land theft.
As I continued to do research, I was able to get directed to the Federation of Southern Cooperatives and find out about a law that had changed within the last 5 or 6 years that actually would allow us to get the lawsuit dismissed. And if we could get it dismissed, it would remove the threat of the gentleman being able to buy or purchase the land out from under us.
Even so, it still took several years before a judge would finally hand down a ruling on the case. But in 2021, the attorneys representing Robinson and his family finally got Deschler's land grab lawsuit dismissed. That put an end to this sleazy opportunist's attempt to snatch their family land. But the remaining problem was that he still owned that 1/15 of the estate. Michael Robinson understood that this guy had to be sent packing no matter what. So the heirs of Joe Eli kept fighting in the courts until August of this year, when they were able to force that Deschler creep to give up that 1/15 interest of their land that he had taken. They keep the land, and he walks away empty-handed, and that's how all happy stories end. But understand, it took them over a decade to get it done. The land is, according to white appraisers, valued at a little over $200,000. Now keep in mind, this is 127 acres of land. And for those of you who don't know, an acre of land is roughly the size of one football field. How much do you think it costs to buy enough land for one football field? Now, how much do you think it costs to buy 127 football fields? See, this is what happens when they lowball black people on the property values for what we own. It's meant as a way to steal wealth from us. White power lies about our property values to make our property cheap to buy, and then as soon as a white person owns it, suddenly they claim its value has shot up because of the color of who owns it. That's the game they play. Black people need to understand it is not some victimless crime to not have a will or a trust or some form of clear title to your property. These racists specifically prey on us because they have a crooked system that they own and control that largely will allow them to do it. Michael Robinson did right by his grandfather, and he also did right by his own children as well. In fact, it was his future heirs that he was thinking about.
What I'd like to do is really make it so that our children aren't starting at zero.
So our children aren't starting at zero. You know, that's verbatim what I and others of the New Voices of Black Media have told you. That every black generation makes its children start from zero, and that's a cycle that has to be broken. I don't know whether Mr. Robinson is a listener to the New Voices of Black Media or if he knows someone who is, but the phrase he used is just too specific for me to think that it was only a coincidence. But either way, he's got his head on straight. And inheritance matters because that's your child's piece of the world. It's something tangible and of value that belongs to them. Anti-black racism's not going to fall on its own. We're going to have to knock it over. But that means power. And that means we're going to have to fight for it. What we have to accept is that this fight isn't going to be quick or easy. That's the entire point of telling you about the Eli estate saga. Our ancestors are worth fighting for. Our children are worth fighting for. Our dignity is worth fighting for. Our respect is worth fighting for. Our power is worth fighting for. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because this incident is a perfect example of what I've always told you. When we fight, we win. Good day.
I got the opportunity to work for some of the best chefs in Italy. What I love most about
This is
Italian
going
cuisine
on
is
right
you go to
now
a new
in
region
another
and you
state.
experience new things every time you go. You're cooking from
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your indigenous Gullah Geechee, and they are in the fight of their life over their land. I want y'all to notice all of the melanated faces that you have seen this year alone of people trying to fight to save their homeland. Again, they have been doing this now forever, to keep any of us from passing your wealth, your land, your homes down to the next generation. How do you do it? You keep swiping up land, acting like nothing can be developed anywhere except for where our people live. That's the only place things can be built. You know, millions and millions and millions of acres of land have been stolen this very same way. It's not a coincidence that you keep seeing our faces in these fights. So let's get into this story. The thievery is overwhelming. County approves larger homes for Gullah Geechee Enclave. Now, who's getting these larger homes? The wealthy, that are going in there and trying to drive these people out. As residents vow to continue to fight, Black residents fear the vote will accelerate the decline of one of the South's few surviving Gullah Geechee communities, trying to squeeze these people out of their homeland. Descendants of enslaved people living on a Georgia island vowed to keep fighting Tuesday after county commissioners voted to double the maximum size of the homes allowed in their tiny enclave. So they're making these wealthy people's homes bigger so that they can just take over the land, which residents fear will accelerate the decline of one of the South's few surviving Gullah Geechee communities. Black residents of Hog Hammock community of Sapelo Island and their supporters packed a meeting in McIntosh County, elected commissioners to oppose zoning changes that residents say favor wealthy buyers and will lead to tax increases that could pressure them to sell their land. And that's the whole point right there. That's what they're going to do. Regardless, commissioners voted 3-2 to weaken zoning restrictions the county adopted nearly 3 decades ago, with the stated intent to help Hog Hammock 30 to 50 residents hold on to their land. So there's a woman there by the name of Yolanda Groer, 54 years old, of Atlanta. She has long planned to retire on the island. Her father and an island native owned hog hammock. She left the county courthouse Tuesday night just wondering if she will ever see it happen. It's going to be very, very difficult, Grosvenor said. She added, I think this is their way of pushing residents off the island. No, that is the way they're doing it. This is the way they are doing it. And y'all, like I said, take notice to how they only want to develop land around where our people live. They don't want to develop land anywhere else. And you know what, to add insult to injury, there's all these open spaces of land all over the country, but nope, they don't want to build there. They got to build around where our people live. So let's get into this. Let's move on. So Hog Hammock is one of the few surviving communities. The people known as the Gullah or Geechee in Georgia, whose ancestors worked island slave plantations. Fights with local government are nothing new to residents and landowners. Dozens successfully appealed staggering property tax hikes, and this happened in 2012. They tried to raise the taxes and get all outrageous on these people. So residents spent years fighting the county in federal court for basic service, such as firefighting equipment and trash collection, before county commission settled last year. We're still fighting all the time, said Maurice Bailey, a hog hammock native whose mother, Cornelia Bailey, was celebrated. She was a celebrated storyteller on the island. Most prominent voices before her death in 2017. They're not going to stop. The people moving in don't respect us as people. They love our food, they love our culture, but they don't love us. Yeah, well, that's pretty much the story of America right there when it comes down to our people. It's like that all over. So hog hammock population has been shrinking in recent decades. Some families have sold their land to outsiders who built vacation homes. New construction has caused tension over how large those homes could be. Commissioners on Tuesday raised the maximum size of a home in hog hammock to 3,000 square feet. The previous limit was 1,400 square feet. Commissioner Davis Poole, who supported loosening the size restriction, said it could allow a modest home, enabling a whole family to stay under one roof. The commissioner are not out to destroy the Gullah Geechee culture or erase the history. We're not out to make more money for the county. He's full of crap. If they are building homes and the wealthy people are moving in and they don't respect them and treating the people that have been there for centuries wrong, that's exactly what you're doing. That's why you're coming in there with those badass attitudes, because you are trying to squeeze them out. The commissioner is full of crap. Commission chairman David Stevens, who said, he said he was visiting the island since the 1980s, blamed hog hammock changing landscape on native owners who sold their land. I don't need anybody to lecture me on the culture of Sapelo Island. This is what Stephen said. If you don't want these outsiders, if you don't want these new homes being built, don't sell your land. So county officials have argued that the size restriction based on heating, and they're talking about the heating and the AC space, prove impossible to enforce. County Attorney Adam Pompel said more than a dozen homes on Hog Hummock appeared to violate the limits. So it looks like these homeowners are building the houses the size they want, regardless of the limit restrictions they're absolutely not listening to. And I'm looking at the commissioner, and yeah, well, enough said about that. All I can say is these residents are in the fight of their life. Eventually, they're going to try to get them all off the island and have these wealthy people taking the homes, probably bulldozing down the homes that are there and build these big fancy houses on the property, because it's very obvious they want to take over everything, and this is what they do. So being that there's homes there, that means there are developers already on the land doing these things, and probably been there for a couple of decades trying to take this place out. So, ladies and gentlemen, they said this place is historic, and it earned its place in the National Register of Historic Places back in 1996, the official list of the United States treasured historic sites. But for protections to preserve the community, residents depend on the local government in McIntosh, where it's 65% of 11,100 residents there are white. Well, that should explain everything right there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they keep fighting, and I hope they keep holding on to their land, but we know how this story goes. We have seen it played out over and over and over, and they keep saying the same thing. Oh, we're not trying to do this, or we offered you money. No, why don't you build somewhere else? But we know why you won't build anywhere else. We already know. Y'all, please tell me what you think about this story.
Meet Google Pixel 8. Engineered by Google with AI controlled by you. Plus Tighten M2, Tensor G3, and a built-in VPN to help keep your info secure. Starting at $6.99.
As you all know, Halloween is fastly approaching, and it's not unusual for people to put out weird and strange and even scary decorations, right? Well, in the 3rd Ward of Houston, which is a historically black neighborhood, white people decided to put out some strange fruit, as the great Billie Holiday said so many years ago. Well, this particular decoration looked like black bodies hanging from a tree. Now, council member Carolyn Shabazz went and asked the neighbor, because that's her district, hey, what's going on? Can y'all take this down? And they told her no. So then Quanell X, a community activist, got involved and went and asked the same thing, and they said, no, we're not taking it down. And they said they was pretty aggressive and rude and nasty about it, to say the least. So Quanell went and got Dr. Candace Matthews, and y'all know Dr. Candace Matthews. We talk about her a lot on this channel because we love her dearly, right? She is really out there in the community making a difference. All right, so they brought attention to what was going on. So Quanell X went and got a lawyer to see if indeed they can cut down those black bodies. And to see if it was on city property, and the attorney verified that it was city property, and those black bodies of sort were cut down by Quanell X and others who were there. And so I want to say this. The problem with this whole situation, among many things, is gentrification. Those white folks go into our neighborhoods and they don't live quiet lives. They don't go about their latte business. They have to get in there and make themselves known and upset the apple cart by just doing things that aren't ordinarily done. Like hanging what seem to be black bodies from a tree in a black neighborhood. They can't just go walk their poodles in peace. They gotta say, oh, what can we do to disturb the neighborhood today? Oh, let's hang up some black bodies in a tree, and then get mad and tell people no when they say, hey, you know what? We're kind of offended by that. You think you can take it down? No, y'all can't just do that. Y'all want to move in our neighborhoods and do the most. But you know what? This is a good reason why we as black people, when, you know, grandmama or mama or grandpa or whatever, they leave their home, they pass away, they leave it to us, don't sell it, because you know they coming in. They gonna come in and do stuff like that, and they gonna bump up the property taxes and just make it hard for everybody else to live there. But you know what? And I'm just pointing this out. I'm not necessarily advocating for it because I don't know if I can. But in a lot of their neighborhoods, they got clauses to where they can't sell to you. They can't sell to you. They don't sell to anybody but a Negro. They got clauses like that. So I don't know if we could get away with a clause like that, but it could be on the hush hush. I'm just saying. But stop letting them move in your grandmama and grandpapa's house so they can come in there and do that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, I'm glad that those black bodies are no longer in the tree. And I would say, you know, maybe those white people should think about somewhere else to live, like in their neighborhoods where the neighbors will be all good with that. Oh, you got black bodies this year? You only have 5? I think you should put 6. You can go in your neighborhoods and do that because they ain't going to have a problem with it. But in our neighborhood, we still have a say-so. So anyway, y'all tell me what you think of that. And for more insightful commentary, please subscribe to this channel and my channel.
Why is it that every time I show something like this, you know, people don't seem to get the message that some people really don't want to let the past go, even the most, and they know they want to trigger black people. That's why they do that. That's why they use intimidation for tactics. That's why they use legal tactics in every kind of way. As you see that, you know, then they said, well, that stuff is in the past. But you see how the spirit of what they've been doing for 300 to 400 years after black people left slavery, they still want to go in and bully and overthrow their way of life after it was given to them, promised to them by the people they was a slave up under, that they servitude, and they still would take the land after they bonded in a relationship with these people. But that's just dirty, man. And it was something that happened long ago where another young man tried to helping some people out because they was going through a hard time. He was a black man, young black man, and he helped out his friend and her family. And I don't know, it was a while ago, and they turned around and the county took his house away from him, even though it wasn't their house. They tricked him into signing something, and there was a big old controversy with that. And see, this goes to show you that when it comes to racism and what they call white, that's a form of white supremacy. That's what the form of white supremacy we're talking about. They use gentrification as a white supremacist tool to rule people, and it's messed up, and that's why black people can't get over it, because in some sector of society you always constantly being reminded that this is what you are, this is what I can do over you, basically. And It's really, really sad. But that's why the past keeps repeating itself. And that's why. And then you want some people just to think they can do things like that. And one thing that they're not going to stand before the Almighty God and think that it's all washed up under the sun. No, it's not. Especially when they never recounted, repent, repay, and repent. So they feel like they have a big ego to do that. And it goes to show you that you can't keep doing evil like this and think that you're going to be blessed and think that you can overlook it, because what goes around comes around, and that's just the way it's a matter of time. And one of these days, that the very people they do that to, it might happen to them, that you're trying to victimize. And that's what it comes down to. These people mind their own business, and they don't like something, so they're gonna go and take it. That's almost something like even was in the Bible, where the story about the one guy wanted this man's property, and he sent someone, had his wife who was Jezebel to come send your name it, had to come, had to kill the man because he was upset, because he was told, no, I'm not giving you this my property. And so the story behind it. It's the biblical story behind that. But yeah, this stuff, it never gets old, man. It never gets old. And it's really sad that we still, people still got to go through this in 2023 and so on. But yeah, that's how dirty it is when it comes to black people. And this is why we black people, they want to shut this down, take it out of the history books. But you are living in history. But what you can't tell a group of people, it's okay, it's going away. We don't want the children, but the children right now can see their parents being booted out. So they seeing history. So these black children and children in general are seeing history playing out now, because the same thing they did during the slave times. And they don't want to talk about this. And you have the DeSantis and Sarah Huckabees and other people like that trying to take it out. But you can't take something that it keeps regenerating itself over and over and over and over again. And not expect that people are going to combat at it. So you have some people that just, they want to just go away. And a lot of these people that doing dirty stuff to people like the Gullah Geechee people and other people like that, they're gonna get their wake up call. It's gonna come down. What comes around goes around, man. It's a good thing, some of these people. Remember a show? It was a while back. This was on Unsolved Mysteries. I'm glad this is popping in my mind. And this was back in the 1980s. And this family, this residential place had a graveyard over it, but they built houses on top of it. So they built houses on top of the graveyards, and the graveyard were some former slaves. Go back and look at if you can go back to Unsolved Mysteries, and what happened was these white people moved in over this black cemetery. Guess what happened to these white people? They start dying off. They start getting some kind of disease. They got real sick and everything, and it kept on. It was strange things that would happen. They would cover up the ground. The ground would kind of mysteriously open. It was like it was haunted. So this is a good time to tell you about that. But it's on Unsolved Mysteries. yeah, it was. So when so these people, yeah, their daughter got and then she passed away. And it was on Unsolved. You guys probably remember Unsolved Mysteries, but I'm gonna show you a segment of it. It was really if it's on here. See, you know how native indigenous land, they would they would they, you know, strange things that would happen, and guess what? It all come around someone trying to gentrify the land of the Native American Indians, and what happened? They got strange stuff happening, and it comes that the ghosts and the spirits haunted the place. And it's like, you know, and it's, I hate to say it's always white people that seem to get caught up in this. I ain't trying to make it a race thing, but it was. The reality of it was some white people. But it was really, I wish I could show you the clip of it. But it was a long time ago. But yeah, it was a long time ago. And this graveyard just opened up. But yeah, but you can probably see it on the show. This might be it. But it should be a warning.
We're not giving up on trying to find out what happened. We've always believed that, you know, somebody knows something.
Have you ever heard a story that completely defied explanation?
He was standing there just staring at me. And I closed my eyes and I said, "This is not real, this is a dream."
Or a story about a crime so baffling and disturbing that you couldn't get it out of your head.
I still revisit that case every single day because
I thought that was it. But yeah, so yeah, if I see that, I definitely try to make a snippet of it and show you, because I probably can't show you the whole thing due to the copyright intent. But yeah, it was in these. If you go on Unsolved Mystery on their platform, and it talks about the little girl that can see these people that passed away, and she kept on seeing ghosts, whatever. It was on there. So this is the warning to people that want to mess with deal with people like that. You keep messing, because if you do that, what if the ground is haunted? See, because yeah, and then people got sick after what they did to the indigenous people, the Native Americans, and who want to live on the property, because that can happen. So it's something to think about for those people, the wealthy people. Is it worth being tormented for the rest of your life? Someone tormenting you because you're on their property because of money? It's something to think about, because it cost these people their life, and some of the people they moved out of the neighborhood. This was down south, I believe it was in Georgia. So hey, You know, call it what you want, and it might be a situation like Lake Lanier, where people mysteriously swim and they died, and they come to find out it was an old town of grave cemetery up under the lake, and a black cemetery, and these white people start dying. See, I keep telling you, sometimes things can move in the supernatural. You can't stop a ghost. You can't stop something supernatural from happening. So it should be a warning. So you probably shouldn't want to take someone's land that was ex-slaves. Just as something to think about. Just like you should respect the Native American people, you need to respect the descendants of African people. Because you're not going to have a good ending. You or maybe somebody, it could happen to somebody in your family. Because it happened to them. And the young lady died of some cancer. And all kinds of strange things will happen to the houses and stuff over this black cemetery. And they said, what do we need to do? They had to go get somebody to kind of pray over the property and make peace with the descendants that were spirits on that property. This stuff is real. So that's why I said America don't know. And that's why you see, during this time of time, you see a lot of, most of the time, them haunted places, somebody passed away and they didn't forgive, and so they still forever walking around on that property. And that's why you be hearing strange event happens and things. That's why people experience that. So, but yeah, I didn't want to be too long on this, but I just want to let people know, yeah, you got the power, but nothing can save your if it gets to your sanity or your health. So that should be a warning to somebody, because look what happened is supernatural, and if people end up losing their family members, I think some kids passed away in there, all kinds of strange things. An animal passes away, all because of greed and prejudice. And that's what they did to the indigenous people in different parts, and they told them, don't do this. They ignored it. They did it anyway, and all kind of bad things happened to the people who ignored it. That stuff do work. Ask some people who are indigenous or Native Americans. Yeah, and so it's going to be the same way with the descendants of African slaves on the shores of America. Because it happened, and just think about Lake Lanier, and that was, in fact, that's another one. In fact, it was in the same state as Georgia. So I don't know if somebody's trying to get revenge from the afterlife or whatever, but hey, it's something to think about. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this video. Share, like, and subscribe. Until next time, they should go find another place. Let them people alone. Let them live out their life. Because if you don't, what you think you're doing is bulldogging and moving us like you see over in the Middle East. But this time, it may not be weapons that come at you. It might be supernatural force that come at you. So think about it. And if you don't, and then people probably didn't believe it. And the thing about it was, before I go, they didn't believe it either till it happened. They were skeptics. They were probably somewhat atheists until it happened. Think about it. So is it worth, taking someone's land, and someday they come back and hunt your descendants on that land? They might get their own vengeance on you, and you won't have and they won't have a good sleep. You can have all the money in the world and prestige and not have peace in your spirit and peace in your house. Think about it. Take care.